Assalamu alaikum students. Hope you are fine in your homes. So I am your teacher, Lone Muzaffar. Today I come with a topic for the social science of class 10th. It's a social science part second of geography. The topic is resource and development. Resource and development. So resource and development, first of all, you should know what is a resource. Resource is everything, whatever is available in our environment, whatever is available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, provided it is technology technologically accessible, economical, feasible, and cultural acceptance can be termed as resources. Anything which is available in our environment, जो भी हमारे environment में available है, which can satisfy our needs, this is a resource. Everything, whatever you using, whatever you are using in your environment, whatever you are using in your locality, whatever you are using in your home, whatever you are using nowadays in life, these are all called the resources. These are all called the resources. These are all called the resources. And uh, this picture this picture shows the interdependence of physical environment, that is nature, technology, and institution. They um, all these are resources. They have the interdependence. Human beings need all these resources. Human beings need all these resources. That the process of in transformation of the things available to in our environment, which involves the interactive. There is an interactive relationship between nature, technology, and institutions. We have a different types of technology here. We have a natural resources here. We have a technology here, and we have a different types of institutions here. We have all dependent on these things. See, okay. Now, the human beings interact with the nature through technology, create institutions to accelerate their economic developments. They are the institutions which helps us in economic development, which accelerate our economic development. These are all the interdependent. Interdependent. Okay? Okay, they all dependent on each other. This is called interdependence. We call it the interdependence. Okay. Now, when we classify the resources, we classify the resources on the following ways. We have a different ways of classifying the resources. Now, first off, we classify them on the basis of their origin. Where they originated. This is biotic and abiotic. We will discuss in later part of the chapter, and this here I will give you only the classification. The classification is on the basis of the origin, biotic and abiotic. On the basis of exhaustibility, there are two types: renewable and non-renewable. On the basis of the ownership, this is the individual, community, national, and international. On the basis of ownership, one he owns, anybody is the owner of any resource. See, it is individual, community, national, and international. On the basis of stats of development, these are potential resources: potential, developed, stock, and reserve. Now, here you can see this picture. Look at this picture. Resource, it is divided into two types: natural and human. This natural is further divided into renewable, non-renewable, renewable, and non-renewable. And this human is here divided into the structural or and institutions, quality, quantity, and the quantity. Okay. Now, the renewable is further divided into the continuous flow, for example wind, water, etc., and biological resources. Okay. Now, the biological resources are the natural vegetation, as the forests and the wildlife. Non-renewable resources, non-renewable recycle, for example the metals, non-recyclable, take recyclable, for example the metals, and non-recyclable, that is the fossil fuels. Okay, now types of resources, I give you the classification earlier on the basis of the origin. First off, we will see the on the basis of the origin. What are the resources on the basis of origin? First is biotic resources. Biotic resources are, these are the obtained from the biosphere and have lives. These are all the resources which have life, which are living. You can just say like that, which are living, which have the life, which can be obtained from the biosphere. These are human beings, flora and fauna, plants and animals, okay, and fisheries, livestock, etc. These are all the biosphere reserves. These are all the biotic reserves. Take resources, sorry, resources. And abiotic resources, all those things which are composed of non-living things, which are non composed of non-living things. These are all the material, these are all the resources which are composed of non-living things. For example, rocks, metals. This is the classification of resources on the basis of types of resources on the basis of their origin. I told you that biotic resources are obtained from the biosphere having the life, such as human beings, flora, fauna, fauna. Okay, now you can note these things. You can note these things. Now, abiotic resources are those resources which are composed of the non-living things. Okay, non-living things, we can say rocks, metals, etc. Okay, now on the basis of exhaustibility, whether they are exhaustible or not, okay, on the basis of exhaustibility, we can divide the resources. We can divide the resources on as renewable, okay, and non-renewable. No, renewable are those resources which can be renewed or reproduced by the physical, chemical, mechanical process, are known as renewable, which can be replenished once exhausted. Okay? Once exhausted, they can be used again and again. They can be renewed. We can renew them. You know the renew. We can renew them once. I will give the example. Once our recharge is exhausted, once we recharge our mobile phones and it is recharged exhausted, we can recharge it again and again. We can use this facility. Okay, so Sam, it is one of the relation with it. I am relating the things to another thing is that renewable resources, they can be renewed. You can also, for example, solar energy, wind energy, water, forests, wildlife. Okay, these may be further divided into the continuous or the flow. I show you in the first picture, when I saw you the first figure. So there why the renewable can be further divided in the first and the flow. I can show you again. This is the natural, okay, continuous or the flow, that is wind and water, you can note here: continuous, renewable, further divide, continuous or flow, that is wind or water. Okay, now another is non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources occurs over a long geological time. Minerals, fossil fuels. Examples of resources. These are like the take the millions of years for these non-renewable resources take the millions of years for their formation. That means that it is very difficult to replenish. It is very difficult for them to renew because it takes the millions of years. Coal. When we study the history of fossil fuels, that is the coal. One of the fossil fuel is coal, petroleum. You also know that once they were the living things, and the millions of years ago they got buried under the earth, and they became the fossil fuels. And so it takes the millions of years. When is they can Fossil fuels cannot be they cannot be recycled, they cannot be used once they are exhausted. That is why non-renewable resources we can use them judicially for their continuous use. Okay. Now, it was the types of resource on the basis of origin. Now, on the basis of exhaustibility, two types of the resource I show you. On the basis of origin, on the basis of exhaustibility. On the basis of origin, there are biotic and abiotic. On the basis of exhaustibility, there are renewable and non-renewable. Okay. Now, on the basis of the ownership, there are the two types of resources. Ownership, individual. First of individual resource. On the basis of ownership, there are individual resources. Okay. Individual resources are also owned by privately by any individual, any farmer. He's having a land, anything which is allotted by the government, or his own land, or any property. Oh, that this is called individual resource. This is called individual resource. Any individual, कोई भी individual जिसको अपनी property हो, anything which have the private property. An individual owned a private property. Many farmers own land which allotted to him by the government. ठीक. Okay. And against the payment of revenue, they have to they are given revenues. They have given the revenues to the government, and government is allotting them the land. In villages people lose land ownership, but there are many who are landless. Okay. Okay. Urban peoples own plots, houses, other property, plantation, pasture land, ponds, water, wells. Some example of resource individual wells, ponds, pastures, water wells. Okay. Plots, houses, property, they are all the private property, they are all the private resources, they are all the individual resource. And another is the community resource. There are the resources which are accessible to all. There are the resources which are accessible to all the members of the community. You can see the common to all. There are the resources which are common to all. For example, grazing grounds where we can graze our cattle. Anybody in the village can go there. Burial grounds where we can bury our dead bodies. Graveyards, we can say the graveyards. It is common in the village ponds. We have village ponds. Everybody is utilizing the water. We have public parks. We have the picnic spots. Okay. Playgrounds in the urban areas. The playgrounds in urban. If we take the example of the urban area, they are the playgrounds where everybody go and play there. Okay. This is accessible, de facto accessible, living all the people is there. Okay. And another resource is the national resource. Technically, all the resource belong to the nation. All the resource, whether individual resource, whether community resource, any private, public property, whatever is in the nation, whatever is in the country, whatever is in the country has a legal power to acquire. Country has a legal power to acquire even the private property for the public goods. Okay. You might have seen roads, canals, railways being constructed and field owned by some individuals. Okay. Now, there are the urban development authorities. These are empowered by the government. They look after these. Government can take anytime anybody's land for construction of anything, government offices, anything. Okay. Now, and within the political boundaries. Okay. All the minerals, water resources, forests, wildlife, and we cannot go to the forest and cut indiscriminately the plants there or the trees there, because there is a forest, there is a this is a national resource. This is a national, because government is owned a property. There is a this is a national resource. Okay. From the coast or a territorial waters and the resource, these all belongs to the nation. Okay. Another thing is the international resources. They are the international institutions, they regulate the resource. There are international institutions, they regulate the resource. The oceanic resources beyond 200 nautical miles of the exclusive economic zone belong to an ocean. Nobody can use it without the permission of the international body. Okay, कोई भी nation, no nation can use it without the permission of the international body, because it is an international resource. It is an international resource. One nautical mile is equal to 6,076 feet. 6,076 feet. Okay, this now this was the on the basis of the this on the basis of the community, on the basis of the ownership. The ownership, on the basis of ownership, there are individual resources, there are community resources, there are national resource, and there are international resource. On the basis of status of development, so when we talk about the development, how can we develop the resources, how can we develop the potential of our country? There are various types of resource. Number first is the potential resource. Number two is the potential resource, the resource which are found in regions but have not been utilized. Though there are many resources in our villages, in our countries, in our towns, in our cities, which are found in the region, but have not been utilized, which have not been. So I will give you the example of my side, the Nichhama. There there is a lignite, a resource of coal. ठीक है, a form of coal, lignite, but this is not, the resource has not been developed, it has not been utilized. It has been not been utilized. For example, Western India, particularly Rajasthan, Gujarat, enormous potential. They have the enormous potential of the wind and solar energy. When we talk about Rajasthan, Gujarat, and they have the enormous potential of the wind energy, but so far these have not been utilized properly. These have not been utilized properly, and we call them the potential. We have a potential, but if we are not utilizing the resources, it is not the fault of the resource, but it is the fault of we people. Okay, we are not developing these resources, we are not branding these resources, we are not giving them the okay. Now the developed resources which are surveyed, and their quality and the quantity have been determined for utilization. Developed resources are those resources which are surveyed. There are the surveys for these resources, and their quality and the quantity have been determined for utilization, and they are used for they are being used for there, because their quality and the quantity. So development of resources depends on the technology and the level of feasibility, and it depends on the technology, whether the technology is using it and is developing it, and for the utilization of the public, and it's a feasibility where it is located. It is the feasibility is necessary, where it is located, can anybody reach there to develop this resource, and this is the feasible. So another thing is the stock. In environment we have a very much potential. In environment we have different types of minerals which can satisfy the human needs. We have a lot of potential minerals which can satisfy the human needs, but we don't have the appropriate technology to access these. We don't have a technology to access these. We call in the stock, we call it the stock. We have enough food. For example, I can give you the example. We have enough food in the store. There is a rice, there is a everything, every food item in the store, but we have no accessibility. We cannot access that food, we cannot get that food, so we call it the stock, we call it a stock. For example, water, when we take up the water is an compound of two gases, H2O. This is hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. Water is a compound of two gases, that is hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen is a rich source of energy, but we don't have advanced technology. How to use for this purpose. Okay, how? Hence it can be considered as a stock. We call it the stock. And number second is the reserves. Reserve is a subset of stock. Reserve is a subset of stock we put into use with the help of existing technology, and how no, but there has not been started. Reserve it is a subset. It is also a part of stock. It is also a part of stock with the help of extraction technology. And how no? How can we utilize it? How can we use it? But it has not been started yet. It has not been can be used for meeting the future requirements. We can use the water, river water can be utilized, river water, or we can build the dams on the river water, and we can utilize for the generation of the hydroelectricity. We have a lot of potential here. We have in Jammu and Kashmir, we have a lot of potential here. We have a lot of water resources here, and we can utilize that water. We can utilize that water for the hydroelectricity. But this is being but the water in the dams for is there is but we are not utilizing it properly, and it is reserved in the dams, and it can be for the for as a reserve, as a reserve. For example, forests, etc. They're all the reserves, and it can be utilized in the future. Okay, now the development of resources. Now resources, you know the resources are the vital for the human survival. Resources, without the resources, a person cannot, a man or human beings cannot survive. It was believed, so it is believed that these resources are the free gift of the nature. These are the free gift of the nature to the human being. As a result, the human beings are but human you beings are indiscriminately using it, and creating the major problems to the environment, and creating the major problems for the and unjudicious use of these resources is creating the major problem, that is the depletion of resources for satisfying the greed of few individuals are satisfying the greed of no, for satisfying the greed of some individuals. They are satisfying their greed. They are depleting all the resources. They're indiscriminately cutting the forest. They are indiscriminately cutting the forests, and depleting depleting this resource, and for satisfying their greeds. They're creating whole humanity in the in a trouble. Accumulation of the resource in few hands. To there are the resources which are accumulated in the few in the capitalist society. You can see in the history, or can in the capitalism, there is the money is accumulated in only one hand. That is concentration of the economy, the concentration of the power, we can say. Though just like this, the accumulation of the money, which is accumulation of the resource which is in the few hand, and it creates a division in the society, that is rich and the poor, and haves and have nots. This is no indiscriminate exploitation. The indiscriminate exploitation of resources, it led to the global crisis, such as global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution, and land degradation. Now, this equitable distribution has become as this equitable distribution of resources, and this judicious use of resources, how to use these judicial resources, it becomes essential. No, it is essential for the sustainable quality of life and global peace, to use these resources judicially. Now, if the present trend of resources, if we see the present trend of resources which are depleting very fastly, individuals in a few individuals and few countries continue to depleting these resources, we can, though the future of our planet is it in danger. So we got a problem of the raining here, global warming here, temperature raising here, and the floods here, and this is all about these the depletion of the resources. And for the sustainable existence, all the forms are lives. Okay, so it is sustainable existence a component of sustainable development. For the sustainable development, we should use these resources judicially. What is a sustainable development? What is a sustainable development? You can define the sustainable development. Sustainable economic development means development should take place without damaging the environment. We should do development, but we should not damage our environment. We should keep in mind that we should use that technology which is eco-friendly. We should not damage our environment for our satisfaction. We should not put this environment, this planet in the danger for our satisfaction, and development in present should not compromise with the needs of future. And we should look for the future generations, and what is the need of future generation, we should look for that. This is the sustainable development. And for the sustainable development, the first earth summit in 1992, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, there the first Earth Summit took place was the Earth in June 1992. More than 100 heads of the states met in the Rio in Brazil for the first International Earth Summit. This was convened for addressing the urgent problems of the environment protection and economic development at the global level. Okay, the all the leaders which were here present, all the 100 heads of the states, signed a declaration on the global climate change and biological diversity. The Rio Convention endorsed the global forest principle and adopted the Agenda 21 for achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. In 1992, 100 heads of the states they met in Rio, Brazil, and signed an agreement that we will follow the we will adopt the Agenda 21 for the sustainable development of in our country. In our country, what is this Agenda 21? Now, Agenda 21 is the declaration signed by the world leaders in 1992. It signed at the United Nations Conference on the Environment and Development, which took place at the Rio, Brazil. Okay, it aims of achieving the global sustainable development. It is an agenda to combat the environmental damage, poverty, disease, environmental damage, poverty, disease through global cooperation on the common interests, mutual needs, shared responsibilities. Now, there was a declaration which was signed by all that we should achieve the global sustainable development. We should achieve everything. We should do development, but we should not at the cost of the future generation. We should not do that development which cost our which will put our future generation in trouble, which will put in future generation in. So all the heads, the on the major object of Agenda 21 was that every local government should draw its own Agenda 21. So this was the Agenda 21. This was the Agenda 21. Now this was all about the resource, all not all about, but the first topic, resource and the development. Now resource and the development, you can now I did my best to understand you the point by point what are the resources and what how to use these resources and what are the types of the resources. Now the next, there are the different and there are a lot to do in this lesson, and we so I'm giving the next video for this lesson, which are also the resource and the development. Hope these points may have helped you in understanding this lesson. Now I request to you in at last I request to you, please subscribe my channel and give your valuable comments. If I anywhere wrong, if I anywhere wrong, you can give my suggestions. Why I have to need the corrections from your points, your likes and your comments encourage me to do the more and more videos and to do some little bit of work for the humanity. Thank you. Thank you.